Hello everyone, and welcome to this lecture on plagiarism. This is a very important topic for all college students, especially those enrolled in History 1301 and History 1302. Now, what is plagiarism? Many people don't know what it is. They think it's just copying word for word. And the definition of plagiarism in the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, the 10th edition, is to steal and pass off the ideas or words of others as one's own without crediting the source, to provide as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. The Chicago Manual of Style defines it as ethics, copyright laws, and courtesy to readers require authors to identify sources of direct quotations and of any facts or opinions not generally known to or easily checked. So this is any information that you did not already know, and it has to be cited. So please be aware of this when you are writing your research paper here over the next 5 weeks. So what does those definitions of plagiarism mean for us, people who are in an academic setting, taking History 1301 or History 1302? Well, essentially what it says is that if you're presenting someone else's thoughts as your own, it's intellectual theft. It's no less stealing than if you walked into a store and shoplift. You're stealing someone else's idea and presenting it as your own. So how do we avoid this? How do we make sure that we don't do this type of thing? Well, as the slide says, we cite. You make sure that anytime you are using someone else's idea or information, you give them credit. Now, there's two types of plagiarism. And the first one is deliberate plagiarism. And this is the most severe academically. This is the one that usually gets most people in trouble, ends up getting them either to fail the class or be dismissed from the college. And first, an example of deliberate plagiarism is if you rewrite from books or articles. If you take a source and you copy it, but you re-put it in your own words, well, a lot of times you were told in school that that was okay. That's not true. If you take someone else's information and just put it in your own words, it's still not yours. It's the person who wrote it. You're just taking it and doing a synopsis of it. So you've still got to make sure that you cite their material. So if you take a sentence out of one of your sources and you decide to reword it, but you're going to use the thought, you still have to put a citation mark for that. Also, copying and pasting from web pages and online sources to create a patchwork writing. A lot of students do this. They write in patchwork. And what I mean by that is they simply copy and paste different sentences and put them together. Well, it's very easy to tell when you do this. Don't be confused and think that we don't catch you guys doing this, because we read it out loud and we can tell that there's no transition between sentences. I will tell you the worst case of copy and paste I've ever had is I had a student one time turn me in a research paper, and it was very, very well written, except for the part that it had headings in it and it had blue hyperlinks in it. The person had copied and pasted their entire research paper, including the citations, from Wikipedia. That is also an example of deliberate plagiarism. Another one is buying, downloading, or borrowing a paper. You are not allowed to buy a paper online from one of those websites. Most of the time now we have them stored and we can compare them. Downloading one off the internet for free, or borrowing even one of your friend's papers. Technically, plagiarism even is defined, and we'll talk about this in a minute, using a previous paper that you've written. So be careful when you do something like that. Now, what is accidental plagiarism? Now, this isn't nearly as bad. This is not knowing when and how to cite. Now, hopefully by the time we're done this class in 5 weeks, you'll have a better idea of when and how to cite a paper. Also, not knowing how to paraphrase or summarize. A lot of students aren't sure what to do when it comes to information that they really are attached to, and they're not sure what they should do with it, so they'll just do it as is. It's okay to paraphrase and summarize what an author says. Just make sure you give them credit. Make sure you give them a footnote or an endnote, but it's okay to put it in your own words. Not knowing what common knowledge is. Now, this is an important idea. What is common knowledge? Well, common knowledge it's information that does not have to be cited. And the best way to describe this, and this is showing my age, I'm 36, but if you look at back in the old days, and I say old days, I was a kid when they had encyclopedias. And I mean real encyclopedias, book encyclopedias. Funk and Wagnall and Encyclopedia Britannica. If the information is in the encyclopedia, it doesn't need to be cited. If it's not in the encyclopedia, chances are it's not common knowledge, and it would need to be cited. So if it's in the encyclopedia, no citations. If it's not in the encyclopedia, citations. Now, where this is becoming obsolete of an idea is online encyclopedias like Wikipedia. Wikipedia now goes way in depth, and it has a lot of things that are not common knowledge. You'll even see sometimes that Wikipedia actually has citation marks. That's a problem. That's why we also tell you don't use Wikipedia. Finally, recycling an old paper. This is plagiarism. You're plagiarizing yourself. If you write a paper and you turn it in for a grade, you can't then turn around and turn it in to another professor for a grade unless you have prior permission to do so. Case in point, me. If I write a book, say I write a book on the Titanic, and I decide to write another book on the Titanic, I can't copy and paste word for word and republish it. A, I'm plagiarizing myself, and B, I'm probably going to be in breach of contract with some kind of publishing house. So be careful when you're doing something like that. It's okay to rework an idea. It's okay to redo a paper and make it a completely different paper, but you can't recycle an old paper and have the same theme and word for word. So be careful on that. The deliberate plagiarism is a big deal. Accidental plagiarism, except for that last one, recycling an old paper, that's a little worse. But those other three are more forgivable. And they're things that if we catch you guys doing, there's more leeway with helping you versus some kind of academic punishment.